Hey everyone, happy early New Year's. This is just a couple days away, and Merry belated Christmas. First of all, I apologize. My pug is making a bit of noise on the ground, so I apologize for that. Um, but I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season. I know I did. This is by far one of the greatest holiday seasons. Even though I've been lucky every year to have amazing holiday seasons and a lovely family, I've been really fortunate. But we actually had a pretty busy one. 2 days before Christmas, I myself went, because he was working, to his immediate family Christmas at his parents' house that morning for brunch, and then that night I went to his second adopted dad's side family by myself because he was at work still. And then Christmas, we went to my immediate family that morning and opened presents. We went to Ezra. We all dressed up in Christmas sweaters. Opened presents with my family, and then we went straight to my dad's side after that, my aunt and uncles, and then went to his brother's for his second adopted mom's Christmas. And then that night we came back, took 20 minutes to just relax and get things ready, and then went to my mom's side family Christmas. And I actually took the 2 days after Christmas off because I worked Christmas up. I worked all the way until Christmas Eve, worked Christmas Eve, and then took Christmas and 2 days after off, which was nice. I spent the 2 days after with my family on my mom's side, relaxing with them because my grandma's house is only 5 minutes away. Actually, 2 days after Christmas, we were heading to have breakfast with all of them, and Blake's tire exploded, so we had to pull over and get that towed and taken care of. Luckily, no one was hurt because we weren't, going super fast. But we were very fortunate, but that's never happened before, so I was like, but yeah. And obviously Blake wasn't too happy because it was 9 in the morning and it was -9 degrees out, and he had to pay to get his vehicle towed and tire replaced. But other than that, it was a wonderful holiday season. It was very nice. It was amazing. But I also thought it would be really nice to talk about, kind of with holiday season, something that's very big, which is food. And some kind of things around the holidays that could make it a bit easier. One thing that I really noticed is how this holiday is food centered, and some kind of ways to change that, I guess. This holiday season was especially very struggling because my grandma, bless her soul, when I was there those 2 days and Christmas night, all she was doing was making sure we were supplied with food. And to me, it was suffocating. I kind of wanted to explain a lot of you may think holiday season that's being very over dramatic, but I really kind of wanted to explain why food is so like that, especially during holiday time. To me, it's never really been about food itself. I enjoy food. I enjoy going out and getting ice cream or pizza with my friends. I actually enjoy baking and cooking. I baked for my graduation party. I love baking. I love cooking. Learning new recipes, trying new things. Going on dates with my fiance to the new restaurants. But to me, food also associates with gaining weight. And to me, I've always associated my self-image with self-worth. That's the main point of that. I take a lot of, it may sound self-centered to say that, but I've been very people pleaser my whole life, something I've been trying to change. But I've always associated, after the experiences of bullying I've been through in middle school and high school, is that's the one thing I can control, is how I look, my weight. I obviously kind of can't control some things about how I look, but I can control my weight. I can't control what other people think about me. I can't control a lot of things, but one thing I can control in my life is my weight. And that makes me feel good, is that I can control something. Because I am a people pleaser, and if someone doesn't like me, it affects me. I've obviously started to change that with some things that have happened, but that was something that was really struggling for me in middle school and high school, is when someone didn't like me or I didn't feel someone liked me, it took a big toll on me. And that's something I've definitely tried to change. But, sorry, I was just looking at his toy. But that's also something that's very struggling, is when you associate something like that so often, because you're a people pleaser. It's hard to change that. So learning how to rearrange that is not very easy. It's like you're learning to drive one way, or writing, learning to write right-handed and writing right-handed all your life, and then learning all of a sudden after like 18 years to do it left-handed, and it's very hard. I don't know. There's not a lot of, I don't know the actual percentage, but I know that people who can write with both hands, I think it's called dexterity. I don't know the actual word for meaning you can write with both hands, but there's a very few percentage of people who can do that, because it's very hard. So learning how to write one way to the other is also like when you, every year when there's a new year, learning to write 2000 blank instead of 2000 blank. So, but one thing is that food is not the thing itself that's harmful. It's what's associated with eating all the food. That's one thing that's also, I don't think a lot of people understand. They associate it with eating disorders with food, because of obviously eating disorder, and how they think that they're scared of food when they're not scared of food. I actually met a lot of people with eating disorders who actually loves food. A lot of them, a handful of them actually are like me and like to bake and cook. But we do it for other people because we don't actually want to eat what we make, because we don't want to eat because we associate. Yeah, it's confusing. But that's one thing that I think is very important for people to understand. It's not about the food. Another thing is during holiday season, a lot of people talk about winter bodies, and that also makes you feel very uncomfortable, especially when you're already not liking the fact that it's winter and you have to wear pants and jeans because you don't like wearing tight-fitting clothing because it makes you feel gross. So back to my main point with food. What was I even saying? So, oh my gosh. So that's one thing. A lot of people actually, I've known a handful of people who actually they want to lose weight and have the perfect body, because losing weight and not being a desirable, like looking like being at that weight they were when they had a traumatic experience. Like, I know a few girls who have been molested, and so they got an eating disorder and tried, so that way they weren't at that weight, because they associated that weight with that traumatic experience and trying to alter their body so the person who molested them wouldn't find them desirable. So things like that. For me, it was my experience with bullying, and trying to control something so that I felt like I was halfway decent, because the girls that bullied me took me down so much that I felt like the one thing I could control about who I was my weight. I could control what size pants I wore. So that was for me. But like I said, there's also other cases with how eating disorders kind of come around. Like I said, like people who were molested kind of sometimes get eating disorders because they want to make that person think they're less desirable. I know a couple of girls who their mother or someone related to them has an eating disorder, and it kind of affected them, and some of the things that they kind of grew up around kind of just spread to them, and they're like, one girl, her mother's habits spread to her, and she kind of just developed an eating disorder. So it's kind of odds and ifs, but the thing is, it never comes from food. It never does. That's one thing I think is a very big misconception, as I said before. For me, like when I was told my senior year how many times in a row by this one girl with this bullying event, like, kill yourself, go to hell, you're fat, you're ugly, you're not worth it. I don't get why. I deleted off your Facebook because I can't stand to see your slut face. Like, those kind of things, especially when I was very people pleaser at that time before I went through treatment. So having someone say those things really tore me down even more than normal. But I was such a big people pleaser. Like I at that time could not stand the idea of someone hating or not liking me, let alone actually happening. Now I kind of learned the difference, and obviously Sometimes it can still be a struggle, but I've obviously learned since then that not everyone's gonna like you. And honestly, that's okay because everyone has different personalities. And if someone doesn't like you and doesn't understand you, that's okay. If someone's gonna judge you and not get to know you or be like that, then that's their issues. If someone makes hates judgments about you and then all of a sudden forms an image in their head about you and it makes them hate you, then that's their problem. If they don't want to get the time to actually know you and they want to make snap judgments, that's their problem. If you know guys aren't compatible, that's not your fault. Just because you and someone else aren't compatible as friends and you guys just are complete opposites and don't get along doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that you're not like them. Like it's like even with my best friends, sometimes I'm like, they can do things that annoy me, and I know for sure there's things I do that I ignore that annoy my friends, annoy my parents, annoy my fiance. Like it's but so being a people pleaser, that really tore me down, and I kind of just started feeling like I wasn't good enough, and so I tried to look for a way that I could be, and it was hard to kind of control someone's opinion about you because you're not them, so you can't make someone who doesn't like you like you. You can't really do that. So the one thing I feel like I could control was how skinny I was. I felt like the less I ate and the less I weighed, the more beautiful I was and the more better I was, and I felt like I was proving them wrong, and I felt good about myself. Every size of pants I went down, every pound I lost, I felt good about myself. I felt accomplished to be wearing the same size pants as my 7-year-old cousin? No, it was my 11-year-old cousin. I, as almost an 18-year-old, was wearing the same size pants as my 11-year-old cousin. So it was I think she was actually 10 at the time because she just turned 12. So she was 10 at the time. I was wearing the same size clothes as her when I went to Arizona. I could fit into her clothes. But to me, that felt good. Like, because those things felt good. Those accomplishments, but then again, like, because some people, when you have an eating disorder, it doesn't come into your brain that doesn't equal self-worth. Your eating disorder wraps around your head that does, and it makes it impossible to kind of switch things. So that's one thing that we talked about in treatment, that they cover very heavily, is that it's not the food that matters. It's getting to the deeper issue. I was in treatment for a whole month before I opened up and actually got to the deeper issue of, well, crap, all that bullying and all that torture actually caused basically this to get out of spiral. Like, because I kind of had it around 5th grade, or not 5th grade, when I was 5 years old, and then when I kind of like always had that I had to eat only a certain amount, and I had to be this certain size jeans. That's why I wore the same size jeans for 6 freaking years in a row, because I didn't want to gain any weight. But then in 12th grade, when I had a big traumatic bullying experience, it kind of leveled up and really developed and really kind of settled in and grew from like a seed to a plant. And then it grew to like a vine and a tree in like my senior year, right before treatment. So that's one thing they cover in treatment is getting to the deeper issues. And because deeper issues do exist, and that's the reason that eating disorders come about. They come from something way down. And it was literally a month into treatment before I opened up, and I remember running from group to my bathroom floor crying, and I remember the nurse having to chase me, and she sitting on the bed outside the bathroom while one of the other patients, who was my roommate and knew me halfway decently because we were roommates, sat there rubbing my back and trying to comfort me, because it was like those deep things hit you hard. Like, it took me a month before I finally realized, well, yeah, there's a bit more going on here. And like, that was the point where I kind of realized that maybe there was more going on, because for that whole month, some people with eating disorders don't even realize that they have an issue. Like, I didn't even realize until I was court committed. I was in the hospital for a freaking month. And right before that whole like crying in the bathroom, realizing what was going on, like my whole deep-seated issue, I was court committed like 2 days before that by a judge in the hospital who signed papers saying, yeah, you need to be here. But I even was put in the hospital in treatment. I was in treatment in the only inpatient treatment facility in Iowa, and I still didn't think I had an issue. I still thought everyone else was crazy and I was normal until I was court committed and judge signed a paper saying, you are staying here because you need help. You are a danger to yourself. I did not realize there was a problem until my grandma called me crying, thinking her granddaughter was going to die after that court committal. Like, because that happened the day after the court committal, like 2 days before the whole crying in the bathroom thing. So that's one thing I think a lot of people need to understand and wanted to cover today was deep-seated issues are the reason that kind of spreads. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that. And something that I kind of may have stereotyped myself before I realized I legitimately have an eating disorders. Eating disorders are associated with white girls who want to be skinnier and prettier and want to be self-centered. And that's not the case. And I really think it's important to kind of understand. But that's what I wanted to cover today. I love you all and hope you have a happy new year.